interesting conundrum for us this year. So let's take a look at the yardage. All right, so if y'all can see, let me know if y'all can see it. Oh yeah, he a Cowboy fan on the low, man. We already put 2 and 2 together. You know, he done stopped short of doing everything except for saying DC4L, man. Said landlord from Wakanda said Pollard will have 1,500 yards from scrimmage. I said he have 16. And you know, I came up with that number because he was only like 230 something yards from having 1,600 yards from scrimmage this year. Right? So let's take a look. So they got Tony Pollard right here. They say that Tony Pollard is going to have 217 rushing attempts this year. They say that he'll have about 1,091 yards rushing. They say he'll have close to 8 rushing touchdowns. Then they also said he'll have about 379 receiving yards and about 2 receiving touchdowns. Right? So that's what they said about OG Tony Pollard. So let me shut this down real quick, this part right here, and let's go take a look at the breakdown of Tony Pollard's touches, yardage this year to see if we can get a clear understanding of what exactly he did. Because Tony, I think a lot of people are underestimating how little Tony Pollard actually touched the ball and how much production that he actually had in comparison to that. Right? So let me get this pulled up so we can chop it up about that. So I got Tony Pollard's numbers pulled up now. If you want to know the website, this is Pro Football Reference. This is they actually keep track of the official NFL numbers that which they go off of. So Tony Pollard had 193. Right, this is his year right here that I highlighted. He had 193 rushing attempts last year, and he had 39 receptions last year. Right, so let's do the quick simple math on that to see how many overall touches that was. So 193 on the ground, 39 through the air. So that means that Tony Pollard only had 232 touches last year. And he only played 16 games, not the full 17. So if you divide that 232 touches last year by 16, Tony Pollard only averaged 14.5 touches a game. So put that number in the chat box, 14.5. Tony Pollard only averaged 14.5 touches a game last year. Put that in the chat box for me. I need some class participation. So only 14.5 touches a game. Let me see them 14.5s in the chat box real quick. Matt Leslie got his 14.5 down. All right. Appreciate you for participating. 14.5 for Sugar Daddy 1. I see you. 14.5 for Stephen Harrison. Okay. So despite... he said he only needs 12.5, right? Yeah, that's crazy. He got $10 million guaranteed off of only 14.5, touches a game, right? So not even 15 whole touches a game. Despite that fact, Tony Pollard still had 1,007 yards rushing and 371 yards receiving. So if you add that together, 1,007 plus 371 comes out to 1,378 yards. So he got 1,378 yards on only 232 touches. Meaning that Tony Pollard averaged on over 5.9 yards a touch. He averaged over 5.9 yards a touch. So every time that Tony Pollard got the ball, he basically was getting 6 yards. So he was basically getting 6 yards every time he touched the ball. With that said, I think Pollard will have 215 rushes, 20 receptions. I think that Zeke averaged 3.9 yards a carry. I actually would have to do the math to see how many he averaged a touch. Because a touch would be rush or reception. So Tony Pollard touches and receptions combined average about 6 yards, right? So let's say that the projections are true. Let's use their projections, because we know because he's going to be running back number 1, he is going to have to get more than 193 carries. He's going to probably get more than 39 receptions. So let's say the numbers were true, right? So let's just do the simple math. Let's add together the touches. So if he gets 217.4 receptions, and then he gets 52 points. Hold up, I'm tripping. He gets 45. Okay, then he gets 45 receptions. That would be 262.4 touches this season. Will be slightly above what he did last year. So if you multiply that by the 5, all right. So let's round that. So let's say that's 262. Let's round down to 262, and let's say he still averages 6 yards a touch. So that will put Tony Pollard right at 1,572 yards from scrimmage. If we do the simple math, then Tony Pollard will get 1,572 yards from scrimmage, and that's over 6 games. 16 games. That's a 16 game average. So Tony Pollard, let's just say we use their touches. Let's say we just use their touches based on his actual, yardage per touch from last year. This man's going to play his way out of Dallas. There is no way that Tony Pollard gets 1,500, 1,600 yards from scrimmage, and the Dallas Cowboys are able to pay him what he is worth. It is just not going to happen like that. They already did not want to pay him now off of 1,300 yards from scrimmage. And, he had 10 total touchdowns, I think. 12 total touchdowns, I think. Matter of fact, Tony Pollard had 9 rushing touchdowns and 3 receiving touchdowns. So he had 12 touchdowns from scrimmage. So 12 touchdowns and 1,300 yards got him franchise tagged. 1,600 yards and 12 or 13 total touchdowns is going to get him out the door, because if he put up that production last year and made a Pro Bowl selection, if he puts up better numbers, he's going to be an All-Pro this year. Tony Pollard is probably going to be an All-Pro running back if all his averages line up and he gets the number of touches that they project him to get. So it's going to be very hard for the Dallas Cowboys to keep Tony Pollard. But I do expect him to have similar numbers to that. So based on the analytical numbers, I'll use their projections. Let's give him the 200. Let's give him all that. I'm saying that Tony Pollard is going to end the season, and I don't know how it'll come. He might have a couple more carries than I expect. He might have a couple more receptions than I expect. But I expect Tony Pollard, to have 262 touches, 1,572 yards, and I'll say he'll have about 13 to 14 total touchdowns. Let's just say 13 on the low side. It's one up from what he had last year. So for Tony Pollard, I got 262 touches, 1,572 yards from scrimmage, 13 touchdowns from scrimmage. What are y'all thoughts about Tony Pollard's projected production during the 2023 season? Talk to me.